This is Counterpoint, and I'm your host, Tanya Granick-Allen. The ballots have been counted in the Ontario provincial election, and the new boss, well, same as the old boss. Yes, even though the scheduled election was still well over a year away, Premier Doug Ford's gamble on calling a snap election clearly paid off. The Progressive Conservatives held on to a majority, though slightly smaller than the last election in 2022. The NDP remain the official opposition, and while Liberal leader Bonnie Crombie failed to win her seat in the legislature, the Liberals increased their seat count from 9 to 14. So which issues resonated most with voters? What happens now for Bonnie Crombie? And what will Premier Ford's agenda look like for the next 4 years now that he received his coveted third term? Well, joining me now to unpack it all is Michelle Simard, lawyer, privacy and cybersecurity specialist, as well as Mike Patton, a political commentator. Thank you both for joining me for this amazing time to unpack the Ontario provincial election, called a full over a year early, I might add. So why don't we start with you, Michelle? Let's unpack the results. The PCs in the last election, 2022, had 80 seats. They had 83. Now that they have 80, but going into the election because of by-elections, et cetera, they were at 79. So technically, people could say that's a seat pickup. NDP, 27. Greens have 2. They held on to their 2. Liberals have 14. What do we make of these results, Michelle?
I think that Doug Ford has horseshoes up the wazoo. I think at the end of the day, everything played out just perfectly for him. Didn't have to deal with the RCMP investigation well in advance. Donald Trump came into power and said, we're going to cause problems for Canada with tariffs, which gave him the mandate. And we had a snowy election day. So many people actually didn't turn out. It was a low voter turnout, higher than expected, but lower than the previous 2 elections. So for him, everything just kind of like in a trifecta worked to his advantage. So calling the election for him was good, gave him a third mandate, and now made some recent political history in Ontario, because that habit hasn't happened in over 40 years.
Absolutely. You mentioned the weather. I think that was a factor. Where I live, which is a little bit in kind of southwestern rural Ontario, very few lawn signs. Honestly, I could probably in the 4 weeks count them on 2 hands how many lawn signs I saw. What would you do? Put them in a 4-foot snowbank? It was cold. And then you get closer to Niagara, where they had sheets of ice for several days and people couldn't go door to door. Mike, did the weather factor in terms of mood? Did people not see this as an unnecessary election? Were they grumpy going to the polls when it's sub-zero and lots of snow?
Well, I think everybody's grumpy when it's sub-zero and there's lots of snow, but I don't know how much the weather really factored into this race. In my opinion, this was a bit of a turtle race. You had, the NDP turtle and the Liberal turtle, and Doug Ford did not have to be the fastest moving candidate in order to win this one. The opposition were really not able to get any traction whatsoever.
But why, Mike? I don't understand. I mean, the NDP this is now they're going to be their third term as the official opposition. Obviously, there was a lot of, I guess you could say, excitement when they won that role in 2018. They have a seat in the legislature. They have many seats in the legislature. Why did the NDP falter to make headway?
Well, in my opinion, and this is something that the NDP and the Liberals, to a certain extent, have to really step back and reassess, very much the same way that the Democrats in the United States need to reassess what they're doing. I believe their problem is they're talking about a lot of things that don't matter to residents of Ontario and to Canadians. For example, one of the issues that is not an Ontario provincial issue is peace in the Middle East. No matter where you stand on the Israeli situation going on with the West Bank and Gaza, it doesn't matter. That's not a provincial issue. If anything, it's a federal issue. But the NDP and the Liberals have been very vocal on this, and they're moving forward and pressing on issues that are not top of mind with Ontario voters, where Doug Ford was talking about Donald Trump and tariffs and things that people actually care about.
So is this part of the horseshoe package you referenced, Michelle, with the tariffs featuring in and maybe getting off topic in international global issues?
Yes, because at the end of the day, Doug Ford did what most Ontarians want to hear. He talked about infrastructure. And for most people who are swing voters, and let's just call a spade, a lot of Ontario voters are swing voters because, like, how do you have the NDP as official opposition and then you have the PCs as the governing party? I mean, like, they're on the political spectrum, they're opposite ends. So clearly, we have a lot of swing voters. And what was important for swing voters? Infrastructure.
Okay, pause you
We had a
there.
lot of
We're going to pick this up in just a moment.